What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to my YouTube channel. So in this video we are going to be uncovering the truths about metrics and KPIs. Have you always been looking at understanding metrics and KPIs and knowing how to differentiate a good KPI from a bad KPI? In this video, I'm going to be telling you everything you need to know about metrics and KPIs, and we are going to be uncovering hidden truths about metrics and KPIs, and I'm also going to be showing you how to differentiate a good KPI and how to tell when you see a bad KPI. Are you excited about this? Because I am very excited. Now let's get started. Metrics and KPI. Now let's look at what is a metric. Now, a metric is a quantitative measure used to assess, compare, and track performance or progress in various fields such as business, finance, science, and technology. Now, when you're talking about metric, one thing you need to pay attention to is all the waves highlighted in red. Now, we say that a metric, for anything to be addressed as a metric, it must be quantifiable. It must be used to assess and compare performance or progress. So, metric is just anything that is quantifiable, okay, and it is used to assess, compare, and track the performance or progress in various fields such as business, finance, science, and technology. Metrics are data points that help businesses monitor overall performance, but not all metrics are equally important. So, this is simply telling us that while some metrics are important, some metrics are not as important as the rest. Now, when we are talking about metrics, example of metrics may include number of sales, customer retention rate, and website traffic. For example, total number of sales, customer retention rate, and website traffic. So these are all examples of metrics. What are KPIs? So one thing you need to know is that KPI stands for key performance indicator. So when we are talking about KPIs, this simply means key performance indicators. Key performance indicators are specific measurable goals directly tied to business objectives. Now let's go back to KPIs. Now we are saying that a KPI is a quantitative measure used to assess, compare, and track performance or progress in various fields. Now, when we go back to KPIs, we are saying that KPIs are measurable goals directly tied to a business objectives. Now, one thing you need to understand is that one major thing you can actually pick from these two divisions is that while KPIs are actually tied to business objectives, metrics are not actually tied to business objectives. Now, we said in business, key performance indicators such as revenue growth, customer retention, and profit margins are essential metrics. Now, let's look at the examples of KPIs. Now, let's look at examples of KPIs in an e-commerce company. We can say example of KPI in an e-commerce company is conversion rate, percentage of visitors who make a purchase. Now, when we are talking about KPIs, they are actually tied to the business goals. For example, an e-commerce company will want to look at the conversion rate KPI, which actually tells them the number of visitors who actually turns to customers, because they want to know how many people they are not only interested in how many people are visiting the website, but are interested in how many of the people that visited the website were turned to a customer. That means how many of the people that visited the website actually made a purchase. Now let's look at example of KPI in the marketing sector. And an example we gave here is the customer acquisition cost. Now this tells us how much you spend to get one customer. Now, in let's say for example, a company is actually running Facebook ads. Now, the now this KPI is actually trying to tell the company how much they spend to actually get one customer. So it tells them how much of the advertising budget was actually spent to actually acquire one customer. Now let's say what are SMART KPIs? SMART KPIs are key performance indicators that are specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and have a specific time frame. So SMART here we have S standing as specific, then we have M standing as measurable, then we have A standing as achievable, we have R standing as relevant, and we have T standing as time. Now, we said smart KPIs, when we are talking about smart KPIs, for example, they must be specific. Like the company would actually have a specific KPI that are actually trying to grow or that are actually trying to calculate. Now, it must be measurable. The KPI must be measurable. For example, if they want to track customer conversion rates, what is the formula or how is this customer conversion rate measured? It must be achievable. A KPI must be achievable. What do we mean by achievable? It's the KPI must not be something that cannot be achieved. That means it must be achievable. It must be clear and it must be achievable. And the company should actually set processes or ways in which this KPI can be made achievable, relevant. When we are talking about relevance here, we are simply saying that the KPI should be relevant to the business goals. There should be a reason why this company is actually trying to calculate this particular KPI. Why are they trying to grow this particular KPI? And what is the importance of this particular KPI to the business? How do this KPI affect the business? And how do the growth of this KPI affect the mission or the goal of the business? So this simply means that the KPI must be relevant to the business goals and have a specific time frame. Now, there should be a specific time frame tied to the achievement of this KPI. Let's say a company wants to grow their customer retention rate from 85% to 90%. Now, how long are they looking at growing this customer retention rate from 85% to 90%? There should be a time frame. It should be, is it 6 months? Is it 3 months? Is it a year? So there should be a time frame for this KPI to be achieved. Now let's look at good and bad KPIs. Now, an example of a good KPI is monthly sales growth percentage. Now, why is this a good KPI? It directly measures how much sales are increasing or decreasing month over month, providing actionable insights into revenue trends. Now, monthly sales growth, it actually calculates each sales, how the rates at which sales has grown month over month. For example, let's say January, they have a growth sales percentage of 15%. Then February, they have a growth percentage rate of 20%. March, they have a growth percentage, sales growth percentage rate of 25%. Now, this KPI actually helps the company to tell how much sales growth they are achieving each month. Now, if the sales growth at January was, let's say, 10%, then February it is 20%. Then you can see that there has been a 10% sales growth rate from January to February. Now, let's say, for example, the sales growth rate as at January was 10%, then as at February, it is still 10%, which simply means that there has not been any sales growth in 1 month. Now, this KPI actually helps the company to provide actionable insights into their revenue trends. Now, what is an example of a bad total sales? It is a simple metric without context. It doesn't show if sales are growing, stagnating, or declining. Now, when we are talking about when the company is just looking at the total sales for each month, now it doesn't actually tell if sales are growing, if sales are stagnant, or if sales are declining. It just shows the total sales for each month. Now let's look at the differences between metric and KPIs. Now, when we are talking about metric, a metric is a general measurement used to track performance. A KPI is a specific metric tied to a key business goal. A metric provides data but may not directly indicate success. A KPI directly measures progress growth towards a strategic objective. The metric can be broad and include various performance indicators. KPI focus on the most important indicators of success. Now let's look at example of a metric, number of website visitors. Now, the number of website visitors, like knowing how many people visit the website in a month or in a year, doesn't actually make any difference. You can know how many people visited the website, but what difference does it make? How does people visiting the website make a difference to the company? But when we're talking about key performance indicators, conversion rate of visitors into customers. Now, this is a key performance indicators. Why? Because it is tied to the business goal. How? Because now we are not only looking at the customers that are visiting the website, we are looking at the customers that actually protest after visiting the website. Now, let's say, for example, when we come to metric, let's say we have 10,000 visitors visiting the website in a month without we finding out if they actually made a purchase or how they actually interacted with the website. But when we are working on key performance indicators, we are actually looking at how many people actually visited the website and how many people actually purchased after visiting the website. We're also trying to know how the customers actually interacted with the website, where they visited in the website, where they clicked on the website. And we can actually do this using Clarity. Using Microsoft Clarity, we can actually know how customers are interacting with our website or our funnel. So these are the major differences between metrics and key performance indicators. Now let's look at how do you choose the right key performance indicators. Number one, define your business goals. Like we mentioned, key performance indicators are actually tied to the business goal. Now, for you to actually choose the right key performance indicators, you need to determine your business goal. For the example we gave about people visiting the website and people actually buying from the website. Now, is the business goal trying to know how many customers have we had in a week from the website? Now, maybe we have a website and we have an app, and the business goal is actually improving the customer conversion rate on through the website. Now, a KPI could be how many customers visited the website that were actually turned to a customer or that actually made a purchase. Now, these are business goals. Now, for you to choose the right KPI, it simply means that your KPI should actually be tied to your business goal or what your business is actually trying to achieve. Identify key success factors. What factors directly contribute to achieving the business goal? Choose KPIs that are quantifiable and trackable over time. Ensure KPIs are actionable. Test and adjust regularly. Now let's look at common KPI mistakes. Now, these are various KPI mistakes that people actually make. Number one, we have is tracking too many KPIs, choosing vanity metrics over actionable KPIs. For example, when we are looking at how many people visited the website, instead of knowing how many people actually purchased from the website, not aligning KPIs with business goals, failing to regularly review and adapt failing to regularly review and update KPIs, not defining clear KPI targets. Common types of KPIs. Now, there are various types of KPIs. Each organization has their own unique KPI. Now, let's look at business and finance KPIs. We have revenue growth rates, return on investment, which is also called the ROI. Then let's also look at marketing and sales KPIs, where we have the customer lifetime value. We also have the website conversion rate. Now let's look at how to visualize and calculate KPIs. One specific way of calculating and visualizing KPIs is actually by building a Power BI dashboard. Now, when you look at it's actually by building a dashboard, maybe by using Power BI, Tableau, or Excel. Now, when you look at this is one of our Power BI portfolio projects. It can actually be found on our Power BI playlist. Now, when you look at this dashboard, you can see that this is a dashboard that calculated various metrics. As you can see, the number one metrics we calculated there was the average sales per customer. We also calculated the total sales. We also calculated the sales growth. We also calculated the total profit. We also calculated the profit per customer, and we also calculated the profit margin. And lastly, we calculated the total customer. Now, this is actually how you can calculate and visualize KPIs.